Says he's ready.
So that was, there was a gentleman that was.
That's fun. Getting ready for year number 4 now.
All right, let's try to get started. It's Monday, October 21st, 6:34 p.m. Call to order this regular board meeting of the Fairfield Community School District Board of Directors to be held at 6:30 p.m. on the third Monday of each month. The meeting is open to the public and the public is encouraged to attend. Time is provided in the meeting for public input. The mission of the Fairfield Community School District Board of Directors is One Fairfield, where relationships foster growth, protect learners, unlock individual potential, and serve every student every day. Can I get a roll call, please?
Porter. Here. Williamson.
Here.
Thornton.
Here.
Ward.
Present.
Robbins.
Here.
Kessel.
Here.
Eastburn.
Here.
And our new member, Tristan.
Here.
All right. Do we have any perfections to the agenda?
No, not that I'm aware of.
All right. Then do I hear a motion to approve the agenda as presented?
So moved.
Second.
All right. We got Porter and Megan. And any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. All right, we're going to start off with some focus on learning and meet our new student representative, Tristan Gerritsen. Howdy.
Howdy.
Welcome to the board table.
Yeah, sir. Thank you all for having me.
Yeah, so we thought it'd be kind of nice just to get to know you a little bit. We'll ask some questions Ty and I have, and then we'll turn it over to the board if there's other questions that you might have for him to just get to know him a little bit better. It's been I don't know if it's been a while or ever since we've had a student rep on the board. I'm not sure.
I don't remember having one, so.
Okay. And kind of like I shared with you, you guys are the ones that are really the reason why we're here. And so it's really important to have a voice just at the table when we're talking about things that pertain to all things education. So I'll start with the first one, and yeah, just tell us a little about you as a student here and why you love Fairfield.
Cool. Hi, my name's Tristan Gerritsen, as I'm sure y'all have heard by now. A little bit about myself. I'm in basically what I'd like to say everything under the sun for fine arts in the high school. Band, choir, esports. I'm a Boy Scout, getting ready to become an Eagle Scout as of tomorrow night, so that'll be pretty cool. And what I love about Fairfield, I really do enjoy the community events, like First Friday Art Walks, Friday Night Lights, concerts, things like that happen here in town that involve the community. Because I feel that Fairfield as a community has a very strong one at that.
Cool.
What inspired you to become a student representative?
Because of how many different things I'm involved in, and how many, like the vast majority of people that I talk to on the daily, I feel that I would be a good student representative on the school board, as how many different people I know and am friends with.
All right, thinking about your experience, when did you start school here in kindergarten?
Yep, kindergarten.
So you've been here since kindergarten.
Yep.
So a lot of experience in the system. So what is that going to provide as far as unique insights as we continue to navigate and operate as a school board?
I've been through every building that we've had. In my 4th grade year, I don't remember what year that was, that's when we decided to switch 2nd, 3rd, and 4th graders at Pence. So I've been through Pence as well as Washington. I've been in the middle school for all 4 years, and now I've been in high school for 3 years, hopefully going on 4.
What's one change do you think you and your peers would like to see in the district?
That's a good question. A thing that I think me and my peers would like to see are I've been trying to think on these, and I've been asking people what we'd like to see, and honestly there hasn't been many negatives. There's been a lot of positives of why the school district is great. Honestly, I can't think of anything bad off the top of my head right now, and one thing that we'd like to change.
And that's fine.
Yeah, so think about a time where you have had maybe something that's come up where you really need to work collectively as a group to collaborate on a solution specific to whatever the outcome might have been. Maybe share a little bit about what that looks like, or what that was for you.
Yeah. So back in 8th grade, this was my last year in the middle school. Our like foods director, I guess, for like the school lunches, which I believe is still Stephanie Hawkins, if I'm not wrong. Yes. She started a school lunch board to like get our students' input, and I was like a main person on that lunch committee, and we got 2 things that I know for sure that not many students ate off the menu because I was watching them being thrown away, and I didn't like to see that waste of food. So, yes.
It's good.
Very cool. What are some ways you think, the school board, we're up here, we're in this meeting, and you guys are the ones actually in the schools. So what's some ideas maybe you could have that we can better engage with the students in the student body?
So with that, I am a student, so I believe that I would be able to, I don't know, collect ideas, I guess, and I can relay them back to the school board about what students could potentially think of ideas that are shared here at these meetings over live. But yeah.
Good. I've got one more kind of canned formal question, then we'll turn it over to the board. If there's other things you'd like to know or just ask him. But thinking about you as a specific individual, what are your future goals and how do you see this experience helping shape that?
Yeah, so after high school, right now it's kind of up in the air as to whether I want to go and get a minor or a major in business or not. But the main route I'm looking at right now, I really like cars and I really do like Toyotas. So like people say that I'd be a good salesman. So right now the current after high school plan is to go sell Toyotas somewhere at a Toyota dealership because I really do like Toyotas. They're great. And this would be I think it would be an all-star thing to put down on an application for people to see.
Good.
Yeah.
Great.
Yeah, we'll just.
Anybody else got any questions for Tristan?
I do.
Sure.
Tristan, thank you so much for volunteering for this position. And I agree with you. You sound like just the perfect person to gather input from the students, all the people you network with and interact with. And so I know I can speak for myself. I'm just so looking forward to hearing, murmurs on the inside.
Yeah.
Because this is just going to be a fabulous channel for us to have you there listening and people feeling comfortable coming to you and sharing their concerns. So I think this is just a great beginning. And you said you didn't think of a lot of negative things, but what are some of your, please don't stop doing such and such, or please more of such and such, like the things that are positive to you?
Yeah. I think like right now, the connection between teachers and students, I think that's great. I don't think any of that should change. Maybe that's not a board thing and more of a teacher thing, but I think we do a great job at that, and that's like the major thing that stands out for me because I know I have multiple teachers and adults in the school district that I could go to if I ever had a problem with anything.
So there's the good openness, and teachers have created a safe space for students to come approach them.
Yeah.
That is wonderful. And you're in everything. How do you manage your time? Are you just a wizard at time management?
I mean, maybe, but I'd like to say my calendar that I have on my phone is a great big help, and I've always kind of been better at scheduling than some people, but I know that like I put things in orders, so of order of what I'm asked, I will go do. So I just manage my time that way.
Fabulous. You're quite an inspiration. Thank you for doing this.
Yes.
Anybody else? All right. Thank you, Tristan.
Mark might have one.
Oh, yep. Go ahead.
I was going to throw a curveball in. Can you tell us your favorite teacher and why? No, I'm just kidding. But thank you for doing
my.
this. And again, it's awesome that you've been in the system since kindergarten up through it. Seen everything. If you haven't heard, a lot of us are Fairfield grads ourselves. And so it's just cool to see, just that want and desire to come in and help and learn. And yeah, hopefully we can learn from you and you can learn from us.
All right. Great. Okay, moving on. Consent agenda. Do I hear a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented?
So moved.
Second.
Deborah and Mark Thornton. Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed? Motion carries. All right, public participation. Do we have anybody fill out?
I didn't receive any. Is there anyone out there that would like to participate?
All right, then I'll skip my little spiel I'm supposed to say there, and we'll move right into new business. Set a public hearing for November 18th, 2024 on flexibility fund expenditures. Do I hear a motion to set the public hearing for flexibility fund expenditures?
So moved.
Second?
All right, Porter and Deborah, and discussion.
So this is just setting the hearing. We're not actually taking any action on this tonight, correct?
Correct.
And this is pertaining to the homeschool funds.
Yep, so last year we transferred $375,000 of homeschool money in its flexibility account. Now we need the board's permission to spend those funds on, we're doing marketing in summer school.
Okay.
But the approval of the funds already took place last year.
Yep.
That already
The
happened.
transfer.
Yep.
And this would just be at the beginning of our regular meeting on November 18th.
Correct.
We get into the details of that discussion at that time, correct? So
Anybody else?
So summer school costs may vary some, so how does this just is kind of an over the amount?
Yeah, so I looked at our summer school costs from last year, which equated to about $52,000, and I took our 3% inflator that we set in our forecasting tool and added that to get my rough estimate of what summer school could cost.
So at this point, because that was an issue last year, we didn't have the funds allocated originally to have the summer school, and then you were able to get them somewhere.
Correct.
But you're gonna just basically ensure that that'll service will be provided.
Correct.
Correct.
So we had to approve this expenditure of the funds before June 30th of 2025. The summer school went into, well, we didn't get the bills till July.
So what was the total participation that we had in summer school? I know it was very good, but
I'd have to look back.
it was over 100 kids, I think, wasn't it?
I don't know if it was that many.
I thought it was over 100.
It might have been. I'll have to look. I can find it and I'll send it to you.
Yeah.
And so these funds would then have to be spent on summer school and the marketing.
Correct.
And if there was additional money found through grants or whatever for summer school, we would still have to spend this money on summer school, right?
It's up to 90,000, so we don't have to spend the full 90,000. I just can't exceed 90,000, and I can't add any additional expenses without an additional public hearing.
Okay.
And these funds originally came from a surplus in the homeschool fund, and we did get a lot of concerns that night if they were getting what they needed. Are we confident they are currently getting what they need?
I personally have not denied a single purchase order that has come across my desk related to homeschool.
I gave them a budget, so they actually know exactly how much money they have to spend for the year.
Who's running our homeschool program right now?
So we've got 3 different people. We've got 2 teachers and then kind of a secretary / teacher as well. So
Just before we reallocate any money that could have been provided to them, I would just like to hear from them and make sure that everything is getting what they need. Because there has been concerns raised from me and the public. I haven't, they've been light concerns, but just making sure that they have what they need. So and if they aren't getting what they need, please relay to us so that we can do what we need to do. So.
And there was a culture of the folks running the homeschool program. I would call it a learned helplessness. There's no money, so why bother asking for anything? There's no money, so why bother updating textbooks? And so we just want to make sure that even though they have a budget, they know you need to spend this, you need to buy new books.
Yes. Yeah.
All right, anybody else? Seeing none. All in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed? Motion carries. All right, do I hear a motion to accept the financial reports as presented?
So moved.
Second.
Megan and Porter. And discussion. What are we looking at here?
Yeah, I'm going to present you guys the annual financial health report around our board goals, and then I will touch base on how I'm going to do our quarterly reporting.
So yeah, we'll jump to the second one. I just wanted to hit on that quick, and then I'll turn it over to Evan. Again, the board established through policy 4 specific goals, and I just wanted to reiterate those. We've shared this with our staff. We've pushed these out to our stakeholders, but I think it's good just to hit those again. So if we could get to the next slide, John. Our first one, unspent authorized budget ratio goal. Maintain the unspent authorized budget ratio within the 15 to 20% target range by closely monitoring budget expenditures throughout the fiscal year. That's goal 1. Number 2, unspent authorized budget net of restricted fund balances goal, which would mean maintain the unspent authorized budget ratio net of restricted fund balances within the 15 to 20% target range by accurately tracking and managing categorical funds and their expenditures. The next one is our solvency ratio goal, which is to maintain an unrestricted, uncommitted general fund balance within 15 to 20% target range, ensuring that a minimum goal of 8% is consistently met, and that the board reviews the projected balance before making decisions on the cash reserve levy, staffing, or any other expenditures for the next fiscal year. Then our final one is the days net cash ratio goal, trying to stay between that 90 to 120 days. This provides us enough cash to cover the 90-day gap between mid-June and mid-September when the district does not receive the state aid. So those are the 4 goals that we have established under our financial health district priority.
Correct, and in front of you guys, you'll see my big printed version of a bunch of different ratios, so if you wanna see exactly where our money was going, student transportation, maintenance, creditors ratio, there's all sorts of good information in here. This presentation is solely on our board goals and to release information based on the September 15th certified annual report. So if we can go to slide 3. So this one showed up on the certified annual report, but it also showed up on our audit. So we did have a negative impact. So over a series of years, and I can't date it back to the exact year, we are interfund borrowing from several different accounts outside of the general fund, mainly SAVE. And as we borrow that money, we were not making the transfers back despite several audits stating transfer this amount of money back. So when I was trying to balance at year end, before I got here, for FY 2023, that was my first year, I was trying to balance those books out, I just could not reconcile. So with working with our auditor, we discovered that because these transfers weren't made, and even though the audit reports were saying they should have been made, we had to do a downward adjustment to our general fund of $2.4 million and some change. So that drastically impacted the ratios that I'm going to share with you guys moving forward. That was a material inaccuracy is what will show up on the audit. That's currently in the review stage. We should get that for presentation hopefully in November. But that will be noted in there that we materially or inaccurately represented our books for several prior years to Zach and I arriving. Any questions on that? I know that's.
Evan, I have a question.
Yep.
So with this $2.4 million adjustment in our general funds, is there any indication of fraud or embezzlement in any of that?
There's no indication of fraud or embezzlement.
And that's verified by the auditor, correct?
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
Next slide. So I also want to highlight some positive impacts. So take that $2.4 million downward adjustment as a correction by the auditor. Last year we successfully reduced our operational expenditures by $716,000. Also last year, because we forecasted out that we needed additional reductions to maintain our board goals, we successfully went through a rigorous budget prioritization process and reduced the budget by $1.1 million before the legislative impact. So there's going to be a little bit of new norms with the new minimum salaries that we're still looking for. At the end of this year, we'll be able to see these reflected in the FY 2025 financial outlook. So the next report you see, we should be able to see the reward of these additional savings that we found.
So from a operational standpoint, how we prioritize things, how we operated, that's a significant reduction in costs. But because of accounting errors over and over again on the accounting side, that's why that 2.4 million wasn't accounted for.
Correct.
Yeah.
The 716,000. Where did those cuts, I guess, or those reduced expenses? Where did that primarily come from?
Yeah, so we saw some of it in instruction, we saw some of it in purchase services, we saw some of it in our support services. You can tie that to multiple different areas. We had a huge turnover in the year right before I got here. There's a lot of turnover in staff. We weren't able to backfill a bunch of positions, and the district at that time decided to not. We couldn't find, and then we decided not to backfill those positions. And they currently did not exist in staffing last year. Moving into this year, some of those positions have come back, but we did account for that during the budget process. So for example, in that $716,000, there was no title teacher at the middle school. The title teacher is now back at the middle school this year. So that's one example I can give you. Next one. So days net cash ratio. So this is kind of an abnormal one that you guys probably don't really see a whole lot, but I like to track. So this is assuming we don't receive any more revenues. How long can we sustain our district? So at the year end, it costs us $68,000 a day. So we had 33 days worth of cash on the books. So if we were to receive no more revenues and pay all of our bills, we would have only been able to operate for 33 days. Now, if you look at financial experts, or if you look at your own investment accounts or your own emergency savings account, they recommend 90 to 120 days. So sadly, that downward adjustment, but also not having enough cash in the previous years, impacted that ratio that we did not meet the compliance of the board of metrics. So how do we correct that? We need to continue to manage our cash levies to match our special education deficit and our other needs. And we need to continue to look for efficiencies and expenditures to get that ratio to where it should be.
No, this does include, so 33 includes that 2 million
Yep,
rollback or
correct.
extra.
Even without that rollback, we ended with 74 days, so we're still below the board metrics.
Yeah.
And you can see a 4-year downward trend with an uptick in 21-22, but that was the year that we spent the most amount of our ESSER funding.
So Evan, this 90-day period two covers a real need for the school district, correct? Between July and August, or end of June, July, August, that's that 90 days that we need the cash.
Correct, so July and August, we received no revenue.
So this
So
is,
we need to make sure we have
this is
cash.
really important, not just if the school district can't operate, this has real world implications every summer, correct?
That's correct. Next slide. Financial solvency ratio. So this is after all expenditures and all expected revenues are accounted for, what our solvency would be. We have a minimum goal of 8%. That's our minimum, but we really want to be around the 15 to 20%. This is something they might use during bond time when we're looking at credit agencies. This year, due to that downward, actually, I did not take that downward adjustment accounted for in this metrics, but we ended with 0.42%. So we were below the board metrics on that. Again, we got to continue to manage our cash levy and look for efficiencies and expenditures.
What did we finish on an operating basis, Evan?
I want to say just over 8%.
Yeah, it was just over. It was like
8.6?
8.6%.
So on an operating basis, without these one-time
Mistakes.
non-recurring adjustment, we would have met our target.
Correct.
We did operationally.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, so correction on all these metrics operationally last year, we didn't meet all of our metrics besides days net cash ratio. Unspent balance component. So I break this down into 3 sectors. I break it down by regular program UAB, unassigned, unobligated. I break it down in categorical. So that is our categorical cash position. So that would be funds like our teacher leadership program. That would be like our preschool program. What we really look for is a 15 to 20% in our regular program, and we should be spending out all of our categorical if we have the ability to do so. Again, with that downward adjustment, that brought us down to 7.84%, which did not meet our target of 15 to 20%, emphasizing the need for ongoing financial management and strategic planning. Our total UAB, which will be measured by the state, which includes categorical, ended at 10.63%. So if you were to talk to a lot of state experts, they would say we're healthy. But what we do know is our regular program is dipping relatively quick, but we did go through that budget situation, so we are projecting an uptick, and I can show you that on a quarterly report here in the near future.
And this is specifically what the SBRC will
Correct.
look at to justify whether or not there's support needed from them.
Yep, so if you went negative in cash, negative days net cash ratio, the state's not coming after us, but if you went negative UAB, we're gonna be before the school budget review committee in Des Moines, drafting a workout plan on how we're gonna fix that. They should give you one opportunity, then they might help you on their own, so. Next slide. So some things that we did over the last year or into this year already, for financial oversight and reporting, to prevent the previous statement of the downward adjustments. Monthly bank account reconciliations achieve a $0 difference verified by the superintendent. What does this mean? I take our bank statement and I match it to our accounting software every month at month end. I print off a report and I give it to Zach and he verifies it. I don't know if he's communicating that with you all, but I do verify it with the superintendent that I'm at a $0 difference. Quarterly board reports include total budget and current projections of the key ratios. So I have a board management system through Frontline that we use that can measure how we're tracking on our budget and to see where we're heading. So we can make real-time adjustments if we need to try to stay within our budgets. Enhanced forecasting techniques. So personally, I have done my own individual model, which is shown in this book. I use some outside sources like Comprehensive Financial Projection Model by Larry Siegel, and then also use some Forecast 5 tools. So I use 3 different models to just see where we're currently heading and where we'll be 3 to 5 years out. So instead of getting to a oh shoot moment, we're being proactive instead of reactive. Next slide. We have made sure there is understanding on how to process purchases. So it currently starts with the lowest level leadership, usually the building level principal. They approve it. It goes to the superintendent approves it, and it comes to me to make sure the coding is appropriate, and then if it falls within the budget established for that year. After those 3 things go through, it then comes to the board table, like you see here, on board bills or secretary bills. We provide quarterly updates to leadership, so we have assigned individual budgets, so everyone has a little bit of empowerment and say in what they're doing and what their people need. But also on a quarterly basis, I give them a progress check on where they're at financially, if they're on track to meet their budget, if they're overexpending or underexpending. After quarter 1, I'll say all the buildings, for the most part, were on track to underspend. So we are progressing in the right way based on the building budgets. And then we're also doing some partnerships with the union right now. We're just reviewing salary schedules as we negotiated last year, and we're working collaboratively to make sure we have an equitable approach to that. Next slide. So where do we go from here? I call it our financial journey of schools. You guys watched a lot of this happen last year. So currently we finished our certified enrollment. That was due October 15th, but at the end of the month here, we'll get our SPED enrollment. So we're analyzing our projected declines in the certified enrollment, but we're waiting on our SPED count to put those into our forecasting models. So we'll adapt the forecasted models based off our new budgets and our certified enrollment to see what our new future outlook looks like. We'll then present an updated forecast to you all in either a work session or live meeting. In that same meeting, I plan on presenting a 5-year capital improvement plan. We're waiting till post-bond because that plan will completely shift if the bond fails. The bond passes, we'll have to approve that 5-year capital improvement plan. And then we will start begin planning for next year's budget and make any necessary expenditure adjustments if we see any fit. Questions, statements?
On that budget planning, will it look similar to last year?
Budget planning.
Yes.
So like you're talking about the prioritization process?
Yeah, I mean, hopefully some of it's already done, but is there any review of that
Yeah, so what I will do is, so that budget thing that we went through last year, it's actually a book, or you saw those pages. So I'll take out what I know was reduced. I'll add our 3% inflator on that, and I'll bring that budget book back. Now, if we go through the whole committee of 40 people, or if we go through just the board or a work session, that's to be determined.
Yeah, we'll really rely on the board to look at the numbers and the forecast and say, hey, is there going to need to be some more significant type of reductions, or are we gonna be able to prioritize and plan so that doesn't have to happen the same way it did last year? But, that'll be something that I think collectively you guys will have to discuss.
At this point in time, I mean, what type of cut do you think that we'll have to take in comparison to last year?
I do not have a feel on any sort of recommendation for a cut at this moment. I need to get all my forecasting done. I need to get all the enrollment in. I do not have any idea of what we need to do to correct the budget, or if any correction will need to be made at this moment.
Because, of course, when we did that, we anticipated there would be more. That was a first step. So,
Yeah, we'll get all the certified enrollment, with special ed students by the end of this month, so we'll have a really good, pretty much exact idea of where we're gonna fall.
but our hope was that would be the biggest bite that we would have to take, I think, when we were
Yeah.
looking at the numbers last year, if I recall, so.
Yep, absolutely. So I also wanted to not see my computer spin. So also in your guys' documents, you guys will see a quarterly report. And I'm not really gonna do a huge presentation on this, but it's the first one of the year. So I just kind of wanted to walk through my thought process behind that, and also field any questions or anything you guys would like me to change for the remainder of the year.
Now, right now, I think that you mentioned in the email that you sent this out, Evan, that right now enrollment was down 45 to 50 kids, that more than expected, correct?
Those aren't final yet though, right?
No, and it wouldn't be 45 to 50 more than. So I think we were between 30 and 35 is what we were projecting to be down.
Yeah.
Was it
So we
32?
flattened us out at 1,500 and we certified 1,525 last year, so we did stable enrollment budget projections on 1,500 kids,
Okay.
so.
But did we end up being down 45 to 50 more than we thought, though?
We don't know yet.
You don't know yet.
Yeah,
Okay.
we certified the gen ed students, which we are down, but all the special ed weightings aren't finalized yet.
Yep.
And so the different levels of students will justify exactly where we're at.
Yep.
So we'll know that by the end of the month for sure. But yes, it's gonna be down.
Now, one thing we started to try to do last year is, we know when we, say we end up being down 45 to 50 kids, or if we lost that to homeschooling, whatever it may be, are we taking steps to contact those families and see kind of what the driving force was and them leaving? And that was something that our interim superintendent Zach tried to kind of enact
Okay.
last year. I didn't know if that's something that you've tried to kind of start to tackle.
All I've done is anybody that has, since July 1st, wanted to open a rollout, I've just called them and asked them or talked to them
Okay.
to see why.
Because that's just something that, I think especially, when we're in this process of trying to stabilize the numbers and stabilize enrollment and all those things, we just really want to keep tackling, because, that's really a goal right now quickly, is to get that curbed, because everything, rides on that, our funding, the new building, everything, so.
Yeah, so collectively in admin, last week, they had a little discussion around enrollment, and some of the things that we're gonna start proactively doing is we're gonna be contacting the preschools in the area just to see how many kids could be coming to Fairfield District, so we can get it to more accurate numbers on the enrollment side as well, so we're working through solutions.
Now, we've talked about there being a little bit of a trend to homeschooling. Now, exactly how does the funding work with that, with kids that are getting homeschooled? Now, whether if they're going through our homeschool program or going through Keosauq's, or Van Buren's homeschooling program, because that is something that I have been hearing, is that there is a handful of families that should be going through. And that's part of the reason I was asking this question, was about the homeschooling program earlier, is because one of the families that, I really thought should be in the district, not only are they not in the district, they're also going through Van Buren's homeschooling program because they thought they had better resources there. And that was kind of why I was kind of digging in at that a little bit.
Yeah, so that comes through, obviously the open enrollment application. So if they come to our district, for example, if they're just homeschooled, we receive 0.3 of the total per pupil waiting. If they come to our district and they also dual enrolled, you receive 0.4 unless you're 912, and there's an additional waiting. If they go to a different school, open enrollment, they get that funding, either through tuition billing or an open enrollment billing process, or based off their certified enrollment.
So it is still very much our interest to keep, the homeschool program thriving in Fairfield, obviously. So that's just something I want to dig in at a little bit, because that is something that I've heard. There's a few families in Fairfield that are not going through our homeschool program, and we need to get that rectified, in my opinion. Because not only that, but then also just having them involved in extracurriculars and everything else.
Dual enrolled,
So
And Zach and I have been discussing having a larger discussion around enrollment next month after the numbers are finalized.
And that would be great. So that'd be great. I just want to. Obviously, that's what drives our funding, and so.
So Evan, a question on quarterly report.
Yep.
You're showing days net cash ratio at the end of Q1 of 13 days?
Yep.
We finished 33 days, we have 13 days now. Are we gonna work on a contingency funding plan for liquidity, borrowing, those kind of things in case we have a liquidity event or something like that?
Yeah, absolutely. So twofold on that question. So the 13 days you're seeing, remember we ended at 33 days. I had to cover July and August, and we just got a little bit of revenue in September. We did get a big drop in October, so I will plan on seeing that upward trend for Q2, but that is a scary number based on our board metrics. So one of the things I'm working on behind the scenes, and I don't have it finalized yet, is that a contingency plan to get approved by the board. Essentially what that is here's our plan if we get in dire straits on how we can legally borrow from that safe fund. You guys approve it, and then we can also have a way to get that money back in. So just to cover the cash as needed, so to do interfund borrow. So I'm trying to draft a plan for you guys to approve. So if I come in and say, hey guys, I need to execute our contingency plan, it should be as simple as a quick little board vote. We get that, we get people paid, then we get the money back to where it should be by year end.
So that is something that has to be approved by the board in order to transfer those funds from one fund to
Absolutely.
the general fund.
So all interfund transfers should be approved by the board.
Should be.
But if we have that plan in place and we know it, then, it's not a surprise. And we're implementing a contingency funding plan because we've had a liquidity event that, when we can at least keep the school district operating.
Correct.
The other piece to think about is Q1 generally from a supplies standpoint and instructional supplies, we spend a lot of money in Q1 on that. So that'll look significantly different as far as the dollar amount that we've spent for those types of things.
Yeah, so just a highlight from Q1, general fund year-to-date expenses totaled $2.2 million through September 2024, which is $647,000 less than the amount spent last year for this period. So we are already showing less expenditures at the beginning of this year than we did last year. The majority of that has been about $400,000 in purchase services. Zach, myself, and several other leaders have been really assessing every contract, every bill that comes through. Do we need to continue doing this? The amount of, I'll use it to, how many streaming services are you guys still paying for that you probably shouldn't be paying for because you don't use them anymore? It's the same thing happens at school, so we're really analyzing that. Our salaries are down about another $200,000. Again, we made a reduction, so that's about what we wanted to see. And our supplies is down about $137,000. A little bit of change in that supplies though. I'd say, I'm not gonna say that's a false number based on timing, but we moved to a year-end model. So hey, teachers in May, let us know what you need for next year so we can get it ordered as the funding comes available. And then it's here when you start day 1 in August. So we do have a big influx of supplies last May. So we didn't have to do it all at the beginning of the year. Our revenues are slightly down a little bit because our federal sources have decreased as our money has ran out. We did have some decreased enrollment, so some of our per pupil weightings and how we get revenue did go down a little bit.
ESSER is completely off our books now, right?
Yep, so it had to be all spent by September of 2024. We spent it all out last year, so ESSER's off our books. So you'll probably see all year long federal revenue down for each period because we're no longer submitting for ESSER reimbursement.
So of the expense reduction of 29%, how much of that was what we expected given the cuts and how much is additional? Is that known or?
So I would say based on the payroll side, the payroll side it calculates out once you add the minimums in. So on the salary side, I can 100% defend that. On the purchase it's really hard to pinpoint that number based on timing. So I was just curious how many bills came in September this year versus they came in November last year, the time of when we paid stuff, so I can't be super concrete on how that will all map out. But what I do know is the overall budget or that category that ties to is what I'm monitoring closely. I think between Zach and I, just the month of August, there's like probably $40,000 worth of bills that we just said we're cutting services here, so that was reflected in there.
Evan, from what I'm hearing too is we're doing a review of our contracts and vendor management
Correct.
because we have
We have a few that are probably not needed.
yes.
Yes. It's just finding a way to do that without incurring additional expenses.
Yes. Because most of those were longer term contracts.
Correct.
Correct. We had a lot of 3 to 5 year contracts.
Are there any potential programs that we could identify to proactively, seek grant funding or anything like that that could kind of help us, improve that cash position so that we don't have to make as many cuts?
I think that's a deeper conversation on like how we want to continue to prioritize as a board and as a district on where we want our money to be going, and then looking for sustainable grant funding avenues. I guess that's really hard. I guess I don't
Yeah,
have any ideas on
I would
that.
say we wouldn't, in my opinion, I don't like the mindset of using grants to offset operational expenses.
And I understand going forward, but this is a one-time adjustment, right? So if we could get it covered for even 1 year
Yeah, to help
us
offset that 2.4
bounce
you're saying.
back our cash position,
Yeah.
it would make sense.
Let's say our district really enjoys, I'd say there's a lot of things that we got grants for last year, that I think people would like to see continue to happen. If we can get any assistance with summer school, that'd be great, to save that flex fund for more of a rainy day fund if need be, or transfer back to homeschool if need be. We've had a lot of great donations out with our negative launch account. I know that's nutrition fund.
I know the Education Foundation is looking to grant more.
Yeah, but there's, I'd really lean on the teachers. I'm sure we can get something out to get some data on some good areas, but I know they're submitting a bunch of grants out there right now of educational programming. So I guess I'm really kind of struggling to come up with the top of my head, but
Sure.
I can look into it. I did want to highlight the key measures from the quarterly report, just because you guys saw the year-end report. So we put our overall budget in there, so our overall total general fund expenditures this year should not exceed $23,174,844. So that's what I'm measuring everything on. You can see it on your days net cash ratio. So if you look at the key measures report, if we went right off our budget alone and we met that budget, we're gonna end the year with the unspent authorized budget, or the unspent authorized budget component of 12.8%. Remember, we ended last year 10.6% up. Currently, we're projected to end at 14%. On solvency, we were treading the wrong direction based on the budget. Some of that was kind of hard to calculate, and I'm still messing with that a little bit. Because AEA flow through takes part of the solvency, but now with the new AEA laws, how you reduce that, so we get less. We don't get less money from the AEAs, but how it's calculated and how it affects that solvency actually went down about 90,000. So it actually put us trending about negative 0.7%, but right now we're projected to be about 2.1% solvency. So we're all else maintains even. We're still gonna have a cash thing that we're gonna be looking at year end. And we're showing just some minor variances. So this is where the budget amendments come in. We're over expending technically in support services overall and non-instructional programs, but again, this is just the first quarter, so we did have to pour a lot of funds into the initial start of the school year. So I project that to balance out, but right now we're projecting to be under budget, which is over the grant period. Great. Any questions on the quarterly report or any things you would like to see moving forward next time I present on the quarter? So I got your key measures in there. I got monthly expenditures and revenues and the year-to-date revenues and expenditures.
I'd like to thank you for putting all that together. That's a lot of work to put this thing, all this together, and yeah, you've done a great job.
How much time do you put into this, Evan?
This annual financial health report. Oh, I start close out August through September 15th. Multiple days, multiple hours there. For me to compile this report after it's approved from the state, it's probably 2 solid work days, 16 hours ish, to get into that report.
Well, thank you.
Even if you guys didn't want it, I'd still do it because I want it. So.
All right.
Any other questions?
Seeing none, the motion on the table is to accept the financial reports as presented. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. Thank you, Evan. All right, next up, motion to approve Terracon for required radon testing. Do I hear a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Megan and Thornton. And discussion.
So what is this?
Maybe Josh had to talk about it.
Welcome, Josh.
So this is something we're gonna be required to do for all schools by 2027, and this is a bill to do all 4 schools in 1 year. We could break it down to 2 schools and then 2 schools and still be in compliance. I just wanted to kind of get it done, but if it's the money thing, we could split it up and just do 2 this year, 2 next year, and still be in compliance. And then whatever mitigation we'd have to do.
Yep.
So that would be in addition to, so.
How
So
often do we have to test?
I think it's every 5 years thereafter.
And this comes out of,
Yeah, Save Republic.
Have we had past tests done?
Not that I have any documentation on, but I don't think we've been required to do it up till now,
Oh,
so.
and this was the only bid we got back.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How many people do you try to get the bid from?
There was Terracon. I had somebody, oddly enough, from New Jersey calling, wanting to do it. But other than that, there's one other company, I don't remember the name now, but I called, set up a time, but then I don't know what happened, so. And Terracon's close. They're out of Burlington, so.
it's good. So we know where to find them. They're not likely to
Yeah.
tell us we have a problem when we don't.
Right.
How much time do they put into these testing?
I don't know exactly how all this works.
I mean, usually
be
when I've
interesting
done
to
radon
see.
testing, it's just a short period of time over a few days and it sounds like they're getting a lot of samples, but I imagine it would be a long time period.
I do know in Pence, they actually have tubes in the basement that say radon mitigation on them, so I'm confident Pence would probably be good. So I don't know about the other schools.
No, I'm good with this. You know, my only holdup with it is, of course, is just the lack of getting multiple bids. Just trying to figure out this issue that we're having of that, you know, is getting concerning, you know?
I agree. I think a lot of it is workforce.
Yeah.
People don't have the workforce that they used to have.
It's just because when we don't have multiple bids to compare from, we just don't know if this is really what it should cost.
If
know?
you want, I can try again.
Yeah.
Well, if it's a requirement for all schools
Yeah.
to do this, there must be
You would think,
frenzy to get to work.
you would think so.
Schools. I mean, and also I know you can, I mean, I don't know how effective they are, and I'm sure they don't meet whatever code is required, but you know, you can have a device in your house that does a readout.
Yeah, and I don't know if that would.
I know that would
suffice
meet
the
this, I'm
schools,
just
but-
curious if like safety wise too would be something just to have ongoing in certain issues so that we ourselves know over time if there's a radon issue. Yeah, it'd be nice to have 2 quotes.
I said 2 quotes. I mean,
It's
obviously,
not a ton of
it
money.
needs to be done. It's just, you know, of course, just we gotta find a way to get more people to reply. I mean, I get it, but I mean,
Yeah.
I know why we're not, but.
And in the absence of having 2 quotes, there might be a neighboring district who would share with us any quotes they've gotten, and maybe we can compare apples to apples.
I can go back and make some more calls if that's what you guys would rather do. I'm not opposed. It's fine if that's what you'd want me to do, and see if we can get somebody else. I do know that they're all gonna charge to come out and look and do it, so.
This is a pretty small deal. I think I'm fine approving this. I'm just talking in the big swing of things.
Sure, no, I get it. And it's up to you guys if you wanna do it just all schools in 1 year, or we wanna do 2 this year and 2 next. I'm good either way.
I'm fine just getting it done. I think it needs to get done.
I think it'd be good to know, make sure,
Yeah.
no sense in waiting.
The mitigation could be spread throughout.
Yeah, as far as I understand it, the testing just has to be completed by 2027. I'm not sure as far as the mitigation part of it, if we have any.
So I was about to say, what if we had to do something at the middle school and we're going for this bond? Like, how would that work out on the mitigation plan?
Right. Well, and if the bond does pass, I mean, it has to be done by 2027. The school will be there by 2028, so it may be one of those things. But the middle school also don't really have a basement,
Gotcha.
so I think we should probably be okay.
And this contract is just a one-time, it's not a.
Yeah, it's not ongoing. That'll be just their services to do all the testing and see what we need to do.
And this was a new law or regulation that just passed.
Yep. Came out, I think, a year-ish or so ago, that it had to be done by 2027.
Any other discussion? All right, thank you, Josh.
Thank you.
Thanks, Joe.
Seeing none, all in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed? Motion carries. All right, next up, do I hear a motion to approve the purchase of a 100-gallon, 199,000 gas water heater for Washington Elementary from Hickenbottom Incorporated for $11,537?
So moved.
Second?
Deborah and Megan. And discussion.
It is shooting out and it needs replaced. It's the easiest way to put it.
It's not supposed to shoot out?
No. So sadly, it is at the end of its lifespan and in dire need of replacement.
Where is that again? Which location?
Washington.
Okay.
I forget how old it is, but either way, we just have to replace it so we can have hot water. Got above $10,000, so to come before the board. Why didn't we file insurance on it? Well, when I was being a penny pitcher last year, I moved our building insurance deductible above $10,000. So this will come out of Pep Board Save funds to cover.
All right, any other discussion? Seeing none, all in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed? Motion carries. Do I hear a motion to approve board policies at the first reading?
So moved.
Second?
Megan and Dave, and discussion.
This takes out old staff's names and adds new staff names. That's pretty much what changed on the policy.
Yeah, and I remember last time we did a lot of these, I asked if you can write these more generic so you don't have to have exact names in there, but I guess that's something we have to do is put exact names.
Yeah, then you know who to contact.
You can't just put superintendent, you have to put Zach Wagner. Yep. All right, any discussion around it? Seeing none, all in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed? Motion carries. And do I hear a motion to approve board policies at the second reading?
So moved.
Second.
Christie and Mark Thornton. And discussion.
What's the changes here?
Well, nothing from the last time because it's the second reading. Right?
There was a lot of name changes too,
There was a lot of name changes, and I was adopting a lot of our policies to the IASB policy primer. So a lot of these just ended up on a review cycle, and the policy primer came up to update it, so we were just, proposal was to adopt IASB.
These, when they came for the second reading, The first ones are good because it shows all the changes in red. Do they not show it on the second one? Do you have to go back to the first one to see those, or is that just a diligent thing?
No, that would be us doing that.
Wow.
I'm looking at the 16th to see,
Okay.
but I don't think there was any changes made from the 16th.
Some of these were new policies as well.
Okay.
So we didn't have anything that wasn't.
I mean, it looks like the truancy one was rescinded, because we're making a new truancy one, right?
Correct.
Any other discussion? Seeing none, all in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed? Motion carries. All right, superintendent updates. What do you got for us?
Yeah, I think just to the policy question, as we kind of move towards that committee framework, it'll be important to have some people that really kind of, I don't know if like policy is the right word, but will actually, really spend time diving in a little bit, because that's an important piece when we get there. But yeah, so you can look back on the 16th and it says, all the different ones. Okay, a few things to share. The first parent-teacher conferences we had at the middle school and high school, we had 222 students represented at the middle school. Number of families that came to check in on 222 students. At the high school, we had 58. We talked about some ways, maybe not this year, but moving forward, where we can structure conferences a little bit different to improve the attendance piece at the high school. Of those 58, the majority were all freshmen. So there wasn't nearly as many upperclassmen or sophomores, juniors, and seniors as there were ninth graders. Our next round of conferences on the 19th of November with Washington and Pence, that second day after our professional development day on the 18th. We are currently in the process of working with Apple to do a device refresh. We think about what we've got in place currently, what devices kids have in their hands. We're looking at some options to reduce expenditures, but also continue to provide students with what they need on a day-to-day basis. So just know that there'll be some conversations around that moving forward with teachers, probably some students as well, to get some input as we look to next year. And as a reminder with that, all of those are paid for not out of general fund. So it's out of PEPL. So this was kind of an exciting, number I wanted to share. Looking at staff attendance, so this would be all staff. And I really looked at the same 10 days, which would be kind of that second week in August up until now. It's usually a time where things just get a little bit harder. We all get a little bit tireder, a little bit sicker. Last year, from the same exact time frame, so it would have been October 8th of this year. Last year would have been, October 7th. I'd have to look for sure, but over these 10 days of school, we had an average in 2023 of 38 employees out per day. This year, we've gone down to 26. So that's a positive move in regards to the number of people gone. And then we think about like filling percentage. How many of those are filled with substitutes? So of those 38 average per day last year, only 40% of those were filled. This year we're up to 47%. So again, it's not super great numbers, but it's in the right direction. So and just a testament to the attitudes and the climate currently within a lot of our district buildings. Starting in December, we're going to add another component to the board meeting agenda, and this will be an admin report. So each month we'll have a building administrator share something specific to their building goals under either student success or belonging, and that'll be 5 to 7 minutes. They'll present, they'll ask you to ask questions, all those kinds of things. So that'll be something in addition to our focus on learning. I think everyone's aware of this, but we have, again, our satellite voting station set up on Friday at the high school. Anybody listening out there, anyone else, make sure if you don't want to have to deal with all the lines on the 5th, do that. You're more than welcome to come. 2 more bond forums left on the 27th and the 3rd. Those are both Sundays, 3:30 at the middle school. We'll be having tours at those as well. Our next professional development day is November 18th, so that'll be the same day as our next regularly scheduled board meeting. We're going to start that day collectively all together again in the auditorium with our teachers. We're going to highlight some information that they had shared back in August when I asked them a very simple question around what do we need for all students to learn at high levels and grow every single year. So I'm going to share the responses to all of those survey responses. We had just under 200 out of our total employee population because that was certified and classified. But that's going to continue to drive the work around our strategic planning, setting the vision and mission to then bring to the board table to work with you and our admin team to make sure we're all on the same page and we can go. So I just also wanted to make sure that I think you all knew, but we had a generous donor give 2,000 sweatshirts to the district for all of our staff, all of our students, and just really thankful for people in our community that want to help unite that one Fairfield mindset. So that's all I got.
I have a question about the
Yeah.
parent-teacher
Yep.
numbers for sophomore, junior, senior. Is that normal, or are we sort of an outlier in terms of our drop in
No, that's,
participation?
again, speaking just from 3 districts in the last 10 years, 100% normal. We shifted all of our conferences. We only had one in Solon where it was like a normal traditional conference connected to content. We changed to all career and academic planning conferences with a teacher that was assigned to a certain number of students, and they would meet with them, and it increased, huge numbers from less than 20% to over 70%.
That makes sense.
And so that's what we had talked about at the high school, but we've got some work to do on our DCAP planning and how our current high school kind of schedule plays into supporting that whole process too.
That will be fabulous.
But yes, definitely it's a pretty normal thing.
Zach,
Yep.
how are you doing on your goal as far as being into the buildings? I think you had a
70-30.
70%.
Yeah, the last 2.5 weeks have not been close to 70. It's been less than 50 out of here. And I'm not sure if that just hasn't been a priority, or if there's other things that have consumed some of that, or if I haven't been tracking it as well. But yeah, it's been less than 50% of my day just looking at my calendar. So that's a good reminder for sure. That might be something too to actually like share with some hard, fast numbers at our next board meeting.
Yes.
Yeah.
Just a question, when those teachers and staff are out sick and there isn't enough to fill, what's happening
Yeah.
in those positions that
So-
are filled during that day?
Depending on the position, if it's a paraprofessional position, it may just be that students are getting served by one paraprofessional to 2 students in the same classroom as opposed to 1-to-1. If it's a classroom teacher and we couldn't find a first grade teacher, maybe we use our instructional coach for the morning, but then we're going to split up that class into 4 groups, and 6 will go here, 6 will go here, 6 will go here, 6 will go here. And that would be, each class kind of has that same, if that happens and we don't get somebody, those same 6 kids would go into the classroom they were in before. So at least there's some consistency with where they go. We've had times at the high school where classes will just go to the library. So there isn't any real instruction taking place. Yeah.
And do you think we could get more subs if there was funding provided for sub
Authorization?
authorization?
Perhaps, yeah.
Foundation or
Yeah.
something.
I know Dave and I had talked, and I don't know if you talked to anybody else, but
Not yet.
yeah, looking at kind of this, kind of a kickoff dinner. Let's invite all these former teachers back, have kind of a nice setup to lay out, hey, here's what we need. Would any of you be interested in coming back to do this? Could invite other people too that maybe weren't former teachers, but something more formalized to look at how we can improve the number of subs and quality of subs. Yeah.
I was surprised at how many retired teachers signed the petition for the GEO bond, or, that's not what I meant to say. To the petition to put it on the ballot. And maybe the retired teachers from anywhere in the US that happen to live in Fairfield. Not sure how
I
we would
think
reach
that
out to
we're,
them.
the idea was to target retired teachers and those kind of things for this, to just invite them in, give a presentation, give them this, some of these statistics so that they can define a need and then, ask, what are the barriers for you coming off the sidelines to help us out for at least a period of time?
Nice.
And I think we would get a really good positive response
Yeah,
if we just gave them the need.
yeah.
And I know that from my experience, just being in the buildings in the morning, I'm very interested in how they kick off. It's a peacetime challenge. Sometimes to get just get the day started.
Peacetime
And
challenge.
I have a great deal of admiration for people who can do that day after day after day.
Yeah,
But
Well-
I don't think that we should be asking them to do that.
And it starts at
Super day.
5:30 or 6 in the morning
Absolutely.
with piecing it all together and figuring out how we support our special ed students, but also making sure that we have what we need in the gen ed setting as well.
If you can have some way to get into the building without, like I've done it for Grandparents' Day, I've done it for presentations to classrooms, just get there early to watch. We're asking a lot of our staff, of our admin people, just to get the day started sometimes. And I have a high degree of admiration for people who can do that day after day after
so
day.
maybe volunteers in addition to what we think we need.
So we
Could ask more.
need to make an effort to try to relieve them of those
Yeah.
responsibilities.
That sounds like a great idea. I know this is a very volunteer-centered community, and we have so many retirees of every profession who could even just direct traffic the hallway.
Out of those numbers you gave us, was that just teachers or was that all staff?
That was everybody.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah, that wasn't just teachers. That
so
could
it was
have been
custodial and
paras,
kitchen.
yep,
Oh,
paras,
okay.
ACT staff.
Yep.
That was the system.
That's a relief.
A little bit. That's all I got.
So I had something, for parent-teacher conferences, I know a couple years ago, we had the high school on trimesters and everybody else was on semesters. And we were still only doing 2 parent-teacher conferences, so they weren't really kind of timed out very well for the high school. Are we doing 3 now? Or did we move those around at all to work better with the trimesters or?
Let's look at the calendar.
Because I think, back when it was doing that, I think one of them happened right at the end of a trimester. One of them happened like right at the beginning of a trimester. And so at the end of the trimester, it's a little bit too late to talk to the teacher because they're about to leave. In the first week of the trimester, it's a little bit too early because you don't have any feedback about the kid yet.
Looks like we've got some in the month of January. And then I don't see any that third trimester. So I see just the 2, first try and second try, as it currently sits on this
But
calendar.
January would probably be right kind of in the middle of that trimester,
Yeah,
right?
it's a good time.
Yeah, that's a pretty good
Yeah,
time.
but there's nothing third.
Okay. Just curious.
And then do we review the ISAS testing and, is that the next session?
I'm gonna share that at the November,
Okay,
yep, the spring of 24 data.
correct.
Yep. Yeah, it's all out there, I just don't have it ready to present yet.
All right, any other questions for Zach? Cool, thank you. All right, now we'll move into highlights. Start over here with Megan this time.
I don't know if it's a highlight, not from this meeting, but just the last few weeks, I was able to go into the middle school in Mr. Clem's class and observe some students presenting, and then I also got invited to observe some title reading at Penn's And it's just awesome, like you said, Dave, to get into the classrooms and see. So, I hope that teachers feel like they can invite us to classes and to observe things, to events. I think we have a board, that's really willing and interested to see things. So that was definitely a highlight to see how hard these little, these kids are working in these 20-minute chunks of time to get through their vowel sounds. So it's cool.
Christy?
I would say having Tristan here is definitely a highlight. I think it'll be great to have his, vision and, feedback on what we're doing or not doing. So I think that's good. We got the opportunity to have lunch with DT today, so thank you for coming and observing us. So that's what I've got.
Dave?
Well, I would just like to thank Evan and Zach for all the work they did to get our financial statements to the place where they accurately reflect the financial condition of the school district. Evan worked on these for how many months, Evan, to reconcile this?
14.
14 months. And the last 5 were very intense, so that we could get to a point where we had an audit of the school district. And Zach was involved, and so I want to thank them for this. And when you undergo a one-time adjustment to correct previous financial statements and take a $2.4 million hit to the general fund, it's never a fun thing. But that's a one-time, non-recurring event. Operationally, I think that the school district did a very good job. So I want to thank both of you for getting us to this point and getting us to the audit. And for me, it was a material breakdown in internal controls, and it is something that we should highlight as a school board, because we're in charge of about $10.4 million of taxpayer funds, as well as over 200 employees, $27 million organization, and we have to have accurate financial statements to make decisions. And I think that we're finally at this point. It's disappointing to get there, but I appreciate all the work that they did to get there. And now, from these reports that Evan has worked on for a long time and that Zach has been a party to, give us an accurate position of where we are in relation to our budget, in relation to our goals. So I'm confident in going forward. I would definitely like to see a contingency funding plan and that 5-year facilities projection, so that we don't have a water heater that blows up, and have to scramble to get it done. We can see those things coming. The last thing is, I think that Zach and Evan have a very credible forecasting model that gives us a lot of good information going into the next budget cycle. So I feel very confident with that. We have a lot of work to do. We have a lot of work to do on compensation for our staff, our certified staff particularly. Some decisions were made in the past that may have affected them. That's disappointing, but at least we're in a position now where we can make credible decisions. So that's my highlight. That's kind of my bailiwick, so I got to say that. But thank you, Zach. Thank you, Evan. I look forward to the audit report and moving forward. So I just want to publicly thank them for their work.
Tristan?
Yeah, I'd like to thank all of you for letting me on the board and being here, because that's pretty cool. And then I'd also like to thank Evan. I think it was really cool that he had this financial report ready here for all of us. I'm sure it took a lot of work, and I'm very grateful to have it here. So thank you.
Thank you.
Mark?
Kind of just circle back on everything you guys said before. First of all, the financial statements. I mean, Evan and Zach, you guys are doing a great job, and it's taken a long time to get to the point, where we can start to think that we can make really good decisions with the numbers that we have in front of us, and really appreciate all the work that you guys are putting into this, and then also like to say thank you to Tristan here. When we're kind of sitting in these meetings, it's easy to forget the whole reason that we're here to begin with, and it's the students, and getting a student representative is something that we've been working on trying to make happen for almost 3 years now, and I'm just glad it's finally happening, so glad to have you here, so.
I'm so thrilled you're here. You're going to make such a difference, and you don't even know it. But I think there couldn't have been a better person to come forward, and so I appreciate that as well. Extremely well qualified, and there will be big shoes to fill when you're no longer representing.
Mark?
Yeah, lots of dittos, I guess. Tristan, welcome aboard. It's awesome. It's cool to have the students here represented. So reach out, ask lots of questions of your peers, and bring it back, and vice versa. We'll give you some things to take away going forward as well. Also, thanks for the financial stuff. It's easier for us now to have a baseline of knowing what we're planning for versus not knowing exactly where all of our money is and where it's going. So I know there's a lot of digging in, figuring out where everything was. So I think, like as Dave said, we're to a point where we can confidently say we're ready to move forward and make a plan and use that information to make some decisions.
Yep, I'm going last, so I'm just full of dittos. Tristan, welcome. I've been calling you very much today, but hopefully, we'll talk about so intensive financial things that maybe you'll have more input on. And then Dave, you kind of stole, exactly what I was going to say. These kind of numbers right here, these financial numbers are exactly what we've been asking for our entire time on the board, Porter. And it's awesome that we're finally getting to a place where, we're rooting out all the cobwebs and all the financials from the years. And, we're getting on a good path. And operationally, I love to hear that we're meeting our goals operationally and that, we're coming in under budget for a lot of stuff. And that, our hard work for doing, for the last 2 years, doing some pretty major reductions, is actually going forward, it's paying off. And we're seeing the fruits of that, which is great. And yeah, thank you guys. Ton of hard work, ton of long hours. I can't even imagine. All right. Do I hear a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
Deborah and Megan?
Can I get a picture of everybody before everybody takes off?
Yeah.
Can I get a all in favor say aye?
Aye.
Motion carries. We're adjourned.
Are we smiling?
Yes.
Or acting like we just have
Not mug shots here.
All right, selfie.
Oh boy.
He's gonna, right?
7:50.